On Larry King Now, Dennis Miller.
I've made my living with Sardonia, but when I get home at night, everybody else is watching the news, and I just got to the point where I thought, I have to go back to a time where things made sense to me. Say this about Trump. Sometimes his outer voice is unbelievable, but I do think that it is an accurate depiction of his inner voice. I don't think Hillary Clinton's inner voice and outer voice have ever even had a cup of coffee together.
Plus,
I remember a joke about Ronald Reagan. I didn't like the fact he had his finger on the button. I said, my grandfather's 76. We won't let him use the remote control for the TV. So it was just like, people always act like they know your politics from SNL, but the simple fact is you're paid to make fun of power at SNL, whoever's in.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. One of my favorite people is our guest, Dennis Miller, the comedian, host, actor, political commentator, New York Times best-selling author. Every Thursday in May, starting May 4th, Dennis will be a guest host on Turner Classic Movies. Why are you doing this?
Well, Larry, I find the world's gone mad, quite frankly. I draw great comfort from Turner Classic Movies. It seems to be the last pre-ironic time. That's funny for me. I've made my living with Sardonia, but when I get home at night, everybody else is watching the news, and I just got to the point where I thought, I have to go back to a time where things made sense to me, and I find it comforting. So I'm a huge TCM fan. They had an opportunity to host just a spotlight. It's called One Night a Month, or One Night a Week for a month, and I jumped on it just because I was such a fan.
We'll get more into that, but let's talk about our dear friend Don Rickles.
Yeah. Well,
you know him for 58 years.
You know him for 58 years. I know him for 58 minutes. But I'll tell you this, when he first came on my HBO show, where you could swear, and this is an anomalous situation.
Well, you're telling me he swore.
I've
never heard him swear off the air, never on stage.
Well, you can probably find this on YouTube then, because he comes out and they say to me, "Do you want to meet Don backstage?" I'm like too nervous. He's my guy, and I go, I don't know. It's like you when you used to say, I didn't read the book. I want to stay tabula rasa. I'm on the houseboat. Let me put a bet down. There's that sort of thing. So they said, do you want to meet Rickles? I said, I'll meet him out there. So he comes out and he does the circuitous route around the Cape of Good Hope while we play the Matador music.
That's why he came on.
That thing made me laugh hard.
He used to wear an emperor's hat when he started in Miami. The Mad Emperor, they called him.
Really? Well, I was not privy to that, but he does the long route. He finally sits down. I go, Don, what a thrill for me. How's things going? I'm just kind of trying to rope-a-dope till I get it down that I'm sitting with Don Rickles, and he goes, well, I'm on this piece of shit, aren't I?
I never heard him say that.
Well, it's like I fall out of the chair because it's just like when you meet a guy like that, you want him to lay into you. You know what I mean? You want to be able to say that Rickles eviscerated you.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
Larry, is it apocryphal or true about him and the restaurant changes invariably, but Rickles asking Sinatra to come?
Absolutely true. Sinatra told me the story.
You got to tell it. I'm sure everybody in this town's heard it, but for
Rickles,
your fans.
They're in Chasen's. Sinatra's at one table. Rickles at another table with his future father-in-law. He goes over to Sinatra, huddles down, says, Frank, would you say hello to my future father-in-law? It'll be big for me. And he loves you, Frank. So Frank says, so bring him over. Rickles says, could you come over to our table? Would you come over? And Frank Sinatra's telling me the story. He said, get up. I walked the entire length of Chase. On the way, I'm saying to myself, Don is such a wonderful guy. And he's going to marry this girl. I'm going to put it on for him. So he hugs him. He goes, oh, Don. And Rickles says, Frank, get the out of here. This is business. And never introduced them.
And they must have to scrape Sinatra off the floor.
Spit out vegetables. Sinatra just waved his hands. But he never met the father-in-law.
Did you read the 2-volume Sinatra book last year?
Oh, was it?
It's just folks, it's like the Pliny the Elder of Sinatra. Yeah, if you want to immerse yourself. When I was done after a month and a half, I was sad. But there's that great thing in there where they kidnap Frank Jr. Yeah. And then the kidnappers are sort of like Alec Guinness, the gang who couldn't shoot straight. They can't get it together. Sinatra walks back. Sinatra Jr. walks back. It's a Tuesday night. Frank has them in the fold again. They're overcome with emotion, a lot of unrequited father-son issues, but they bond. But then it's Friday night, and Sinatra's got to do what Sinatra does. He goes to the sands, and Rickles comes out, quiets the crowd, and recalls the week, and the place is just in over their head. The father reclaiming his cub. They go crazy. Everybody's crying, and Rickles says, "Frank, you know why the kidnappers let the kid go?" Frank says, "Why, sir? He started to sing in the trunk." It's so wrong.
Frank, it's nice to see you here. Hit somebody. Tell me, do you pick out when you do these Turner Classic movies? Do you pick out the emotions?
No, this one was. They have a thing there called guest programmer, where you get to go on one night and pick 4 films. I did that a few years ago, and I got on well with them. This was an odd fit. They were looking for somebody to host a month of B science fiction movies from the early '60s.
Those crazy movies?
Yeah, and like I don't think they were going to get Pauline Kael or Bosley Crowther to do this one, and I happened to like those films when I was a kid, so I volunteered.
So these are movies like what?
You know, Tarantula. You know, it's every
The Thing
insect
from Outer Space.
Literally, Larry. By the time they had run through every insect being exposed to radiation, and they were down to like escargot or like Chasen's chili and
Richard Carlson,
everything.
guys like that.
Richard Carlson
out in the desert, phoning in to, and there's always the woman you never heard from again was be the female lead, right?
You know what though? The one woman in there who was in Tarantula, she ends up when she was a young actress, and I forget her name, but she married Richard Long, the actor from The Big Valley. She ends up as a young actress befriending Clint Eastwood. And Clint, who seems like a mensch, I'm not going to pretend I know Clint, but he seems like menschier than the characters he plays. He remains a lifelong friend. Her name's Mira Corday. And in the movie scene where he says, "Go ahead and make my day," the waitress, he asks her back later in life. So there's a nice ending. This young girl who was in Tarantula, you think you never hear from, Clint always remembers, always gives her a role, and she's the waitress, and go ahead.
Our guest is the cerebral and great comedian Dennis Miller. We're talking SNL in the age of Trump when we come back. More after this. We're back with Dennis Miller. He'll be hosting Turner Classic Movies throughout May, every Thursday night, all horror films from the past, or horror or outer space, or...
I would just say that they're not the great horror films. It's not Frankenstein and all that.
Do you watch Saturday Night Live?
I haven't watched it in years, Larry. And that's no animus. It's a young person's show. I don't know. I'll be truthful. I'm not up at 11:30 on Saturday.
Dennis, I tell you what, I miss you. In addition to your HBO shows, Monday Night Football. I loved you.
Oh, you were the one.
No, I loved you. We met a couple times.
Yeah, I
we were
remember.
doing that at airports.
Put it this way, Larry. I have never been in the middle of a more fractious cultural crosshairs than that. Every week they'd put something up on, what was it called? It's gone under now, but there used to be a site that would vote on, and you'd have like 200,000 people hate your guts, and people take their football seriously.
No kidding.
But I remember that my favorite part of it, I had dinner with Al. Al still eats out in West Hollywood at that one Italian place out there. And the best part of it was being with Fauci and Al. And I got a great story about Al one night. Al Michaels is a genius. Where's the camera that can sell that? Al Michaels is a genius. But if you make him laugh, he kind of gets thrown off, and he can't stop laughing. And my weird arcane references would always make him laugh.
You had the weirdest.
So we were on one night, and Chris Carter had hurt his foot, and they were wrapping it in a gauze bandage. And I said to Al on the air, I said, Al, I haven't seen that much fabric used since the environmental artist Christo wrapped the Pont Neuf Bridge in Paris. This is during a football game, and Al hits his sneeze button, which cuts his voice out to the home viewer. He looks at me and he says, "The f*** are you talking about?" And Olmeyer, who's down in the truck, Don, he fancies himself an art aficionado. I actually hear Olmeyer in my headpiece say, "No, Al, Christo, environmental artist, that's a solid reference. Okay, 3rd and 6.
we can't go with you without politics. You said you can't judge a president until 6 months.
Yeah.
So you make no judgment on Trump?
No, I didn't with Obama. He wasn't my cup of tea.
Do you have any early opinion?
Dangerous world, Larry. I don't know what to say.
Is he a dangerous president?
Do I put it this way? Do I want to give money to Iran? Do I think that's a solid idea? No, I don't.
But it was their money.
I know, but I would do whatever I could to consternate Iran. I just don't trust them.
Well, has there been anything annoying thus far at all? I know you're a conservative and all that, but
Yeah, but I'm socially liberal. You know, two people with similar gender want to get married. What business? I'm happy for them. I like people in love getting married.
I know Trump forever. He's socially liberal. Why is he acting this way?
I can't
figure it out.
All I know is they could have put that last ballot, and I won't even say, I've never said publicly who I voted for, but I will tell you this. They could have had a ballot that had two big squares on it, one marked Hillary and one marked not Hillary, and I was putting my X in the not Hillary box. Because I say this about Trump, sometimes his outer voice is unbelievable. But I do think that it is an accurate depiction of his inner voice. I don't think Hillary Clinton's inner voice and outer voice have ever even had a cup of coffee together. So I'll give him that.
Is it strange, Dennis, being a conservative in La La Land?
No, I don't live here.
Are you ostracized? Do people shun you?
You know, Larry, I'm pretty much of a reserved guy socially, so that's one good thing about not being out and about. I wouldn't know if I was.
Did your politics change?
No, I was always socially liberal, and I always thought that bad guys needed their ass kicked periodically. I just do.
So you don't consider yourself, what are you?
I'm a pragmatist. You know, I just am. I think some of this stuff is no-brainers. I think you should spend what you take in. You know, it's just like basic stuff to me. But it's pretty stratified out there right now. It's the Hatfields and the McCoys.
Is there any moderate?
I don't think so. I think the way you used to become a moderate was having, on a Venn diagram, opinions that sort of brushed up against each other in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't think that exists anymore. I do think you can have disparate opinions on the outside of those two globes that kind of, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, kind of can make you, in a backdoor way, a moderate. But do I think you can have tepid opinions in the middle now?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
All right, with your look at the world now, are you optimistic or pessimistic?
Well, I don't know. You're a pretty smart guy. You think the world's in good shape?
No, I'll tell you what Edward Bennett Williams said, the great lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him, are you optimistic or pessimistic? He said, of course I'm pessimistic. I'm smart.
Yeah, well, I think the world's in a troubled place. You know, I look at college campuses. They were always a font of information and a place where you could go and formulate, you know, varied thoughts on things. It's like Seinfeld now. I wouldn't even go on a college campus to perform. I heard Jerry say he won't go on. It's so closed-minded. That can't be good for the future, can it? I mean, how closed-minded people are about things.
I don't understand that. Huh? But why would Jerry worry? He doesn't do.
He just said that he finds it's a minefield out there. There are people set in stone at a young age now. I find that not a good indicator for the future. When I was young, I was trying to figure things out. I'd take a little of this, take a little of that, mix it together. But nowadays, boy, it is lockstep out there. You know, I got a job at a local college as a safe space lifeguard. I jump in when the kids are drowning in their own bullshit.
Coming up, we'll talk about impersonations, people who impersonate both of us, and strange jobs with Dennis Miller. He hosts Turner Classic Movies throughout May every Thursday night. We'll be right back. We're back with Dennis Miller, the great Dennis Miller, the one and only Dennis Miller. You still talk with Leno and Seinfeld? That's your contemporary.
I saw Jerry at a Mets game last year. I talked to Leno more frequently. I talked to Dana Carvey the most. But
no, Dana's hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
And Leno keeps working, right?
He's like he makes Sisyphus look like a quitter. You know, he is a grinder, man.
Is there any comedian now you could call very influential?
I never liked that influential thing.
I
like funny. Yeah, but Mort, Mort started dropping more names than an expectant parent. You know, all of a sudden he's in the sidecar with Jack Kennedy. I just like comedians who are funny, not important. Brian Regan makes me laugh. There's a young kid named Sebastian Maniscalco who's Stone, hilarious. I know that's a quirky name, but if you ever see that name, folks, go see that cat, Sebastian Maniscalco. Spade makes me laugh. I'm not looking for stentorian comedians. I like funny comedians.
You've been impersonated by a number of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people. You've been done by Fallon, Carvey. Tom Hanks did you, right? Do you regard it as a compliment?
Sure.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, for God's sakes, just the fact that you've got any hook that somebody can do a joke about is flattering.
Were you the best kid in school, the brightest kid in school?
No, but I do remember an important moment where I was sort of socially awkward, and I do remember making a football player laugh once in study hall, and he was like the big man on campus, and I saw him laugh, and then you're Pavlov's dog. I remember thinking, oh, there's my in.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to a place called Point Park College in Pittsburgh. Not much.
Point Park College in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I was not a great student, but they were nice people. I don't want to.
Park College, they have sports teams?
Yeah, they were pretty good in sports, but it was not, it wasn't Ivy League, let's put it that way, but they were nice people.
Well, we play a little game of If You Only Knew, okay, Dennis? I just throw some things at you. What's a guilty pleasure?
Sous vide eggs at Starbucks.
The what?
Sous vide.
Sous vide?
They put it in water and make these eggs, and I think they're really high in calories, but I eat them most mornings.
Childhood celebrity crush?
I remember when I was watching Goldfinger, and he came into the suite behind Shirley Eaton, who was helping Gert Frobe cheat at cards, and she was laying there in black lingerie on that chaise.
You wanted
I think that was an important moment.
What's on your bucket list?
Never to see the movie The Bucket List.
It was a pretty good movie. Biggest risk you've ever taken?
I remember I climbed to this place called the Tiger's Lair once in Bhutan, and it made me laugh about how litigious we are in the United States of America, because there's 15 signs on it, and I was up near the lair, and the path got real narrow as you went up to the 13,000 feet or 12,000 feet to this monastery, and I said to the guy, I said, well, what do you mean there's no fence or anything? And he said, no. I said, well, what happens? He said, we had a woman fall and die last week. And I remember thinking, it's so funny how America is. You can't go to the top of anything without like 10 signs and litigation warnings. And that was kind of risky.
Best advice you ever got?
I remember Leno was always good, and he used to always make it so basic and funny. He'd say, you'd get to Hollywood, and I remember when you first get there, you're kind of thinking, geez, you like the horses, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the guy holds it back till it opens, and you got your shot. But Leno used to always say, listen, stay on the road, because you can't see it right now. It's all crowded, but eventually there's an opening. And then he said, shoot through, He said, just stay on the road, though. Don't be a moron.
Leno never got credit. He's a great monologist.
Oh, Jay.
In a room. I mean, on television, it was a confined space. He stalks.
He was brilliant on that show, Larry. It's a money thing. I mean, come on, let's look. Who has staying power in TV? You, and a few guys. There's always the mercurial genius like Jack Parr, but I'm talking about a guy who shows up and hits the ball for the job. But Jay, you airdrop him into any venue. And airdrop him into any social situation.
Yeah.
He's a flat-out, brilliant, hilarious, good cat.
Great guy. Is there what's the strangest job you've ever had?
I remember I used to, it feels like a Kafka job. I used to work in New York when I first went there to become a comedian. During the day, people would buy screws, nuts, and bolts at this place I worked at downtown.
A hardware store?
It wasn't even that. It was like a widget office. It reminded me of, like the movie The Trowel or something. And I'd have to, you ever see pharmacists working with those tools where they put pills into the mortar and pestle? I'd have to do that with widgets and put them in and seal it and mail it off to people. And I remember thinking, this is a good job because this is so surreal that when I go to do stand-up comedy later at night, it will seem normal by comparison. So that was my weirdest job.
What was your big break? How did we get to know you?
I guess that I had Lorne Michaels had I remember Franken and Davis were the producers that year, and they had a audition Lauren was coming back to do SNL. They had an audition at the Comedy Store. I went. I got the next audition in New York. I went. And then I'd say my biggest break was this. I was in Baltimore doing a gig, and I saw USA Today, which was new at the time, and they had a picture of the new cast, and it was Denitra Vance, Terry Sweeney, John Lovitz, Nora Dunn. I can kind of remember the picture. I obviously wasn't in it, nor do you at that point get a heads up that you're not going to be in it. It's just showbiz. And I remember thinking, well, I did pretty well there. I bet you I came close. But, you know, I wasn't, at that point, you're just so, keep your head down, you know, keep punching. And then I got a call. I was doing Letterman one night, and I got a call that Lorne Michaels wants to see you at his office. I thought, this has got to be something. Lorne's not calling me in to hold my hand. And it turns out that John Lovitz was supposed to be the Weekend Update anchor, but he proved himself so adroit in so many things that they needed the downtime during the music to put him in prosthetic makeup. So in other words, they needed a long change. So that's the vagaries of your career. So Lorne said, how would you like to do Weekend Update?
And how long did you do that gig?
I think I did it 6 years.
Did you partially write it too?
Oh, I wrote it. I
You
wrote it
wrote the
with
whole
Herb Sargent. The first few weeks you're there, anybody can contribute things. And I never wrote people's when somebody would come up as a character, but eventually it became me and a guy named Herb Sargent. We used to write it.
Boy. Dennis will answer your many social media questions in our final segment. And don't forget, every Thursday night in May, he will host Turner Classic Movies. We'll be right back. We're back with Dennis Miller. Some social media questions for the Turner Classic Movie host Thursday nights. You still do a lot of stand-up, right?
Yeah, I go out and, like I said, I do the 9-10 dates a year with O'Reilly, but then I go out my own, probably another 9 or 10. But I'm in my dotage, brother. I'm not hustling it like I used to.
You live in Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
right? Life's good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy.
Bryson Knox on Facebook. What do you think of Alec Baldwin's portrayal of Trump on Saturday Night Live?
I've only seen the clips of it, and it seems like it's... hey, listen, when Alec Baldwin has a movie, what is it called, Baby Boss or something, it opens at 51 million, I'd say that it's paying good dividends. For you know, Trump has re-energized the career of Rachel Maddow. All his detractors are catching some nice drafting from him in NASCAR terms.
Rachel Maddow, an hour of Rachel.
Well, I don't know the show, but I do know that her ratings are through the roof.
Yeah.
Larry, when I'm telling you, I watch Turner Classic Movies, I read, I go to hike. The world's a fractious place right now. I don't want to pay as close attention to it.
Bobby Nelson asks, what's the state of political correctness today?
Well, absolutely insane. I mean, geez, you can't say anything about it. It's one of the reasons that I find it tedious to be involved in the discourse. You know, nobody has a sense of humor about anything anymore. So I choose not, I just zip it, you know, for the most part.
Daniel Christopher Thomas wants to know, what did you do for your Saturday Night Live audition?
I remember I stayed cool. I didn't kill, but I do remember Lorne would put you up in a room. It was like a rehearsal studio somewhere off Times Square. And you'd go out and you'd see famous people that you kind of knew from Saturday Night Live just because you grew up in the zeitgeist. So he brings you out and he says, go ahead, you have 8 minutes, Dennis. What would you like to show us? And as somebody who doesn't, you know, it's not like I'm a turn and morph into Aqualung off the Jethro Tull album. I don't have any characters. So I remember thinking, tell a few jokes, but stay cool, because what they're looking for here is not somebody who's freaking out. You know what I mean? You look somewhat bulletproof. They're looking for a guy.
So
listen, you remember how cool Johnny was when he got...
So you were above it?
Not above it, Larry, but just I looked resilient. I didn't look like I'd cave. I remember thinking, look like you'll stand on your feet and lean into it as opposed to being brutalized by it. Because whenever Carson used to kill me, I didn't even know what it was as a young kid when I'd watch it and the joke would suck. And it was beautiful the way Houdini out of it.
Did you do any of your obscure material, or was it jokes?
No, somewhat. I remember a joke about Ronald Reagan. I didn't like the fact he had his finger on the button. You know, I said, my grandfather's 76. We won't let him use the remote control for the TV set. So it was just like, people always act like they know your politics from SNL, but the simple fact is you're paid to make fun of power at SNL, whoever's in.
Daniel Christopher Thomas again, who was the easiest to write with on Saturday Night Live?
Well, Herb, for me, like I said, I didn't do the sketches, but Herb Sargent was the coolest cat, man. When he was young, he was like a dashing man. That was his brother Alvin, I think, or maybe Herb wrote too. But he was the first guy who took me to what was that great place on the Upper East Side? Elaine's. Oh. And Herb would walk into Elaine's, and you'd see all those literary lions.
Who wrote the play?
Huh? Maybe Herb did, but I think Alvin was the.
I will bow to you. Kevin Weinert wants to know if you'll write another book.
No, just.
Cody Joe Brown, do you ever...
What, are you making up these names?
No.
This is like a spin wheel or something. Cody Joe
Brown from probably Dallas. Do you ever struggle with the thought that people might not take you seriously, even though you obviously do have a great understanding of real issues?
No, I don't care about any of that. Larry, I don't know. As you got older, did the approbation of strangers matter that much to you?
No, it don't matter.
You know what I mean? Maybe when you're a kid, I'm not trying to act like I was some Zen warrior. When you're a kid, you kind of want the people to approve of you. But you get into your 60s and you're still worrying about what strangers think of you? Haven't you missed the point of the long journey? And by the way, tell that Sugarman guy to stay awake at the games, for God's sakes. Every time I watch the Dodger game, he's on his thing like he's Gigi Hadid at Fashion Week. Watch the game.
As Rickles would say, what are they going to do to me?
Exactly. I think you won, Larry.
Yeah, I think you did. Dennis,
all right.
Love seeing you, baby.
You're a good man.
Thanks to my guest, Dennis Miller. Watch him on Turner Classic Movies every Thursday in May. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.